The rain fell quietly over the small town of Maplewood, Oregon, turning the streets silver under the streetlights. The town looked peaceful, the kind of place where everyone knew each other's names. But under that calm surface, Maplewood hid something dark. Emily Parker, a 17-year-old high school senior, loved spending time in the old public library. While most teenagers went to parties, Emily liked the smell of old books and the silence of the reading hall. She often said, "Books don't lie. People do." That rainy evening, the library was almost empty. Only the sound of rain tapping the windows broke the silence. Emily walked through the history section, running her fingers along the dusty book spines. One of the books looked different, The Town That Time Forgot. Its cover was faded, and the pages smelled of age. She opened the book and gasped. Inside, between two yellow pages, was an old photograph. It showed a young couple standing near a lake. The boy's arm was around the girl, and both of them were smiling. The picture was slightly torn at the edges, but the writing on the back was clear. "Don't forget me, 1994. Emily turned the photo over again and stared at it. Something about it felt sad. The girl in the picture looked only a few years older than Emily. Her smile was bright, but her eyes seemed to hide a secret. Emily walked to the librarian's desk. Mrs. Wilson, the librarian, was an older woman who had worked there for decades. She always had a kind smile, but when Emily handed her the photo, that smile disappeared. Mrs. Wilson's face went pale. She looked at the picture for a long moment, then whispered, "Where did you find this?" Emily pointed toward the bookshelf. "Inside that old history book." "Why? Do you know them?" Mrs. Wilson didn't answer. Her hands shook slightly as she placed the photo down on the counter. "Emily," she said in a soft but serious voice, "you shouldn't have found that." Emily frowned. "Why not? Who are they?" Mrs. Wilson took a deep breath and looked toward the dark window as thunder rolled outside. "Some stories are better left in the past." Before Emily could ask more, the librarian slid the photo back toward her and said, "Go home, dear. It's getting late." But Emily didn't want to go. Her curiosity was stronger than her fear. She looked again at the writing on the back of the photo, "Don't forget me." Those 3 words echoed in her mind the whole way home. That night, Emily sat at her desk, the photo lying beside her notebook. She opened her laptop and searched Maplewood missing person 1994. One result caught her eye, a newspaper clipping from June 12, 1994. The headline read, "Teen girl disappears after school dance, police still searching for clues." The missing girl's name was Laura Sanders, 18 years old. The article said she was last seen near Willow Lake, the same lake in the background of Emily's photo. Emily's heart raced. Could the girl in the picture be Laura? And if so, who was the boy beside her? She printed the article and circled the photo date. Something didn't add up. If the girl went missing right after that photo was taken, why was it hidden inside a book? The wind outside howled. Emily glanced at the window for a second. She thought she saw a shadow move across the street. Probably just the wind, she told herself. Still, the feeling stayed, like someone was watching her. The next morning at school, Emily told her best friend Jake Miller about what she had found. Jake was tall, quiet, and always carried a small notebook. He loved mysteries, especially real ones. "So you're saying," Jake said, tapping his pen on the table, "this photo could be from a missing persons case?" Emily nodded. "Laura Sanders. She vanished 30 years ago. And no one ever found out what happened to her." Jake leaned back in his chair. "That's crazy. Maybe it's just a coincidence." "Then why did the librarian look so scared?" Emily asked. Jake thought for a moment. "Maybe she knows something." Emily's eyes lit up. "Exactly." After school, the two of them went back to the library. Mrs. Wilson wasn't at the counter this time, so they went straight to the archives room. The air inside was cool and smelled like dust and paper. Rows of old boxes and files lined the shelves. Emily opened one box marked Town Records, 1990 to 1999. Inside were old letters, maps, and police reports. She searched until she found one labeled Sanders, Laura, 1994. But before she could open it, a sound came from behind them, the soft creak of a door. They both turned. No one was there. Jake whispered, "Did you close the door?" Emily shook her head. No. They stood still for a few seconds, listening. The library was silent again. Only the faint ticking of the clock could be heard. Emily slowly opened the file. Inside was a copy of Laura's missing person report and a note in handwriting that looked rushed. "Someone in this town knows the truth." Emily looked at Jake, her voice barely above a whisper. "This isn't just a photo, Jake. Someone wanted it hidden." And as thunder cracked outside once more, she knew one thing for sure: the mystery of Maplewood wasn't buried after all. It was waiting to be found. The next few days in Maplewood felt different for Emily Parker. Every time she looked at that photo, she felt a strange pull, as if the girl inside was asking for help, begging to be remembered. Her best friend Jake Miller was the only one she trusted to talk about it. Jake loved solving puzzles and reading detective stories, but this time, the mystery was real and dangerous. They met after school at their favorite spot, a small cafe near the river. Emily placed the old photo and the missing report on the table. Jake looked at them carefully. "So, this girl, Laura Sanders, went missing in 1994. No body, no evidence. And the boy with her?" Emily shook her head. "No record. The police report only mentioned she was last seen leaving the school dance. No one saw her after that." Jake leaned closer. "What if that guy in the photo was her boyfriend?" Emily nodded slowly. "I think so. But why hide their photo inside a book?" Jake smiled slightly. "Maybe whoever hid it wanted someone to find it one day." That thought gave Emily chills. That evening, Emily decided to visit Mrs. Wilson, the librarian, again. The library was almost empty, just like the night she found the photo. Mrs. Wilson looked nervous when Emily walked in. "Mrs. Wilson," Emily began softly, "please. I need to know who these people are." The older woman sighed and adjusted her glasses. "Emily, you're a good girl. But there are things in this town better left alone." Emily's voice shook. "But Laura was only 18. She deserves to be remembered." Mrs. Wilson hesitated, then whispered, "Her parents were powerful people, Emily. They didn't want the town talking. When she disappeared, they told the police to stop searching after a month. They said she ran away." "Did you believe that?" Emily asked. Mrs. Wilson's eyes glistened. "No one did. But we were told to stay quiet." Emily frowned. "Why?" Mrs. Wilson glanced around as if someone might hear. "Because her father, Richard Sanders, owned half this town back then. And he didn't want any more scandal." Before Emily could ask more, Mrs. Wilson stood up quickly. "That's all I can say. Please, Emily. Don't dig deeper. People got hurt last time." Those words stuck in Emily's head. People got hurt last time. Later that night, Emily called Jake. "We have to find out more about the Sanders family." Jake was quiet for a moment. "Emily, are you sure about this? What if someone's still trying to hide the truth?" "I can't stop now," Emily said firmly. "If Laura was alive, she'd be my age when she vanished. It's not fair that no one remembers her." Jake sighed. "All right. Then we do it together." The next afternoon, they went to the Maplewood Town Hall to look for public records. Jake talked to the receptionist while Emily searched through old yearbooks and newspapers. In a 1994 school yearbook, she finally found Laura's picture, a smiling blonde girl with bright blue eyes. Next to her photo, it said, "Laura Sanders, most likely to make a difference." Under the photo was another name, Daniel Cooper, senior prom king. Emily froze. The same Daniel who stood beside Laura in the photograph. "Jake," she whispered. "I found him." Jake hurried over. "Daniel Cooper. That has to be the guy." They searched more and found a small article in an old paper. Local teen Daniel Cooper leaves Maplewood weeks after girlfriend's disappearance. Jake raised an eyebrow. "Leaves town right after she goes missing? That's suspicious." Emily nodded. "We need to find out where he went." Jake took out his phone. "I'll check old address records." That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The storm outside rattled her window, and every sound made her heart race. She turned on her desk lamp and opened the file again. The photo seemed different now, like Laura's eyes were pleading. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was Jake. "I found something," he said. "Daniel Cooper moved to a town called Riverside. He works at a car repair shop there. He's still alive." Emily sat up straight. "That's only 30 minutes away." Jake hesitated. "You're not thinking of—" "I am," Emily interrupted. "We're going to see him." Jake sighed. "Emily, this is getting serious. What if he's dangerous? Or what if he's innocent?" Emily said softly, "and he's been carrying the secret for 30 years. There was silence on the line. Finally, Jake said, "Okay. Tomorrow, after school." The next morning, Emily walked to school feeling like someone was following her. Every time she turned, she saw no one, just empty streets and the sound of her own footsteps. When she reached her locker, there was a small folded paper stuck inside. She opened it slowly. Inside were only 4 words, written in neat handwriting. "Stop looking for Laura." Her hands trembled. Someone knew what she was doing. She looked around, scanning the hallway, but everyone looked normal, laughing, talking, unaware. Emily swallowed hard. She texted Jake. "We're being watched." Jake replied almost instantly. "Then we must be close to the truth." That evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Emily stood by her window, staring at the rain-soaked streets. The small town of Maplewood suddenly didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt haunted, not by ghosts, but by secrets. Emily whispered to herself, "Laura, I'll find out what happened to you. I promise." Somewhere in the dark, a shadow moved across the street again, the same one she had seen days ago. And this time, Emily was sure someone was watching her house. The next morning, Maplewood felt colder than usual. A thick fog rolled over the streets, and the quiet town seemed even more silent than before. Emily Parker hadn't slept all night. The note she found in her locker, "Stop looking for Laura," kept repeating in her mind like a broken record. Someone knew. Someone was watching her. But instead of fear, Emily felt a strange fire inside her. Whoever wanted to stop her had just made her more determined. At school, Jake Miller waited by her locker. "You okay?" he asked. Emily nodded, though her eyes showed she hadn't rested. She showed him the note. Jake frowned. "This means we're close to something. Someone doesn't want the truth out." Emily folded the note and slipped it into her bag. "Then let's find what they're hiding." That evening, Emily and Jake drove out of town toward Willow Lake, the same place from the photo, the place where Laura Sanders was last seen. The road was old and cracked, lined with tall pine trees that blocked most of the light. "Are you sure about this?" Jake asked as he drove. Emily looked out the window. "We need to see it for ourselves. Maybe we'll find something the police missed." When they reached the lake, it was almost sunset. The air smelled of wet earth, and the water shimmered under the orange sky. The place looked peaceful, too peaceful for what had happened there. They walked along the old wooden dock, where half the boards were broken and moss-covered. Emily stared at the lake's surface. "This is where it ended," she whispered. Jake walked around, kicking the dirt near the edge. "The photo was taken here, right? Maybe there's something nearby." Emily looked at the background in the photo again, and then she noticed something she hadn't seen before. Behind the couple was a small building with a red sign. "Jake," she said quickly, "look. That's an old diner." Jake squinted at the photo. "You're right. The Willow Diner. My dad used to talk about it. It closed years ago." They looked across the lake, and there it was, half hidden behind the trees, an old, abandoned diner with its sign barely hanging on. Without thinking twice, they ran toward it. The diner was covered in vines and dust. The windows were broken, and the door creaked as Jake pushed it open. Inside, the smell of rust and decay filled the air. Old tables and chairs were scattered everywhere, and the walls were covered with faded posters from the 90s. Emily's flashlight beam danced across the room. "It's like time stopped here," she said quietly. They walked carefully between the tables. Jake's shoe hit something metal, a spoon. He picked it up, smiled nervously. "Guess no one's been here for a long time." Emily moved to a corner booth. The table was scratched and dusty, but something caught her eye, faint letters carved into the wood. She brushed the dust away with her sleeve. "The truth is in the lake." Jake froze. "Emily, what does that mean?" Emily ran her fingers over the carving. "Someone wanted to leave a message. Maybe Laura." Her heart started beating faster. "We have to check the lake again." Jake hesitated. "It's getting dark." But Emily was already walking toward the door. "Then we don't have much time." Back by the water, the sun had set, and the sky was now deep purple. The fog thickened around them. Emily pointed her flashlight along the muddy edge of the lake. "Help me look," she said. They searched for nearly an hour, finding only broken glass, old cans, and pieces of wood. Emily was about to give up when the light from her flashlight hit something shiny in the mud. "Wait," she said. She knelt down and pulled at it. It was small, round, covered in dirt. She wiped it clean, and her breath caught in her throat. It was a locket. She opened it carefully. Inside was a tiny picture, the same girl from the photo, Laura Sanders, and next to her, a young man with the same bright smile. Jake leaned closer. "That's Daniel Cooper." On the back of the locket were engraved letters, L+D. Emily's hands shook. Laura and Daniel. They were in love. Jake nodded slowly. "So what happened to them?" Emily stared at the lake. "Maybe someone found out about them. Someone who didn't want them together." They stood in silence for a moment, the water rippling softly in the wind. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the forest. Both of them jumped. "What was that?" Jake whispered. Emily turned the flashlight toward the trees, nothing but darkness. Then they heard it again, footsteps. Slow. Crunching on the wet ground. "Jake," Emily whispered, "someone's out there." Jake grabbed her arm. "We should go. Now." They ran back toward the car, the flashlight beam shaking in Emily's hand. She looked back one last time and saw a shadow near the diner. Someone was standing there just watching them. When they finally reached the car, both of them were out of breath. Jake started the engine, his hands trembling. Emily looked down at the locket, still glowing softly in her palm. "This is proof," she said. "This connects them." Jake nodded, his eyes still on the road. "And whoever was out there knows we found it?" They drove in silence, the sound of rain beginning to fall again. Emily clutched the locket tightly, feeling its cold metal press against her skin. Somewhere deep inside, She felt Laura's story wasn't just about love or loss, it was about something bigger. And now, she and Jake were part of it. As they reached town, a flash of lightning lit up the road, and for a second, Emily saw a figure standing near the corner of the street. The same dark shadow. Watching. Waiting. She whispered to herself, "The truth is in the lake, but someone doesn't want us to find it." The rain had finally stopped in Maplewood, but for Emily Parker and Jake Miller, the storm inside their minds hadn't. The locket they found at Willow Lake now lay on Emily's desk, its silver surface gleaming faintly under the lamp. It was old, but beautiful, and it carried more than a memory. It carried a truth that someone wanted buried. Emily sat in silence, staring at the initials carved on the back. L+D. Laura and Daniel. Jake leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "So, what's next?" "We know Daniel Cooper left Maplewood after Laura disappeared. Maybe he knows what happened." Emily nodded slowly. "We have to talk to him." Jake frowned. "You really think he'll tell us? It's been 30 years. Maybe," Emily said softly. "But he deserves to tell his side. And Laura deserves someone to listen." The next morning, they drove to Riverside, a small town 30 minutes away. The road was long and quiet, lined with old farms and misty fields. Emily held the locket tightly in her hand, as if afraid it might vanish. Jake followed the directions on his phone until they stopped outside a small auto repair shop. The sign read Cooper's Garage. "This is it," Jake said. Emily took a deep breath. "Let's go." Inside, the smell of oil and gasoline filled the air. A man in his late 40s was fixing a car engine. His hair was gray at the sides, and his hands were covered in grease. "Excuse me," Emily said nervously. "Are you Daniel Cooper?" The man turned. His eyes were tired, but kind. "Yeah." "Who's asking?" Emily hesitated, then showed him the photo, the one she found in the book. Daniel froze. The wrench slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a clang. He stared at the photo like he was seeing a ghost. Where did you get this?" he asked in a shaky voice. Emily stepped forward. "It was hidden inside an old library book in Maplewood." Daniel's eyes softened with sadness. "Maplewood," he whispered. "I haven't heard that name in years." Jake spoke carefully. "You knew Laura Sanders, didn't you?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He pulled out a chair and sat down, wiping his hands on a cloth. "She was everything to me," he said finally. "Laura wasn't just my girlfriend, she was my whole world." Emily and Jake listened silently. Daniel's eyes stared into the distance. "Her father hated me. Said I wasn't good enough for her. I worked at a gas station back then, just a small town boy. But Laura, she didn't care. She wanted to leave Maplewood and start a new life with me." He paused, breathing deeply. "Then she told me she was pregnant." Emily's eyes widened. "Pregnant?" Daniel nodded. "She wanted to tell her parents, but I knew they'd never allow it. So we planned to run away together. The night before we were supposed to leave, she disappeared." Jake frowned. "You didn't go to the police?" Daniel laughed bitterly. "Her father was the police in that town. He owned half of Maplewood. When I tried to report it, they called me a liar. Said I was trying to ruin the Sanders family name. A week later, I was told to leave town, or else." Emily's voice was soft. "You think her family hid what happened?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I don't think it. I know it. Her father said she'd gone to live with an aunt in another state. But I never believed him. I searched for her for years. No one would talk to me." Emily placed the locket on the table. "We found this at Willow Lake. It has your initials." Daniel's hand trembled as he picked it up. "This was hers," he whispered. I gave it to her the night before she vanished. I thought it was lost forever. He pressed the locket to his chest and closed his eyes. For a moment, no one spoke. The sound of rain outside filled the silence. Finally, Daniel said, "If you found this, maybe she left it for someone to find. Maybe she wanted the truth to come out." Emily nodded. "We'll find out what really happened to her. I promise." Daniel looked at her, and for the first time in 30 years, there was a spark of hope in his eyes. When they left the garage, the sky had cleared. But Emily's heart was heavy. Jake said quietly, "So Laura wasn't murdered. She was forced to disappear." Emily looked out the window as they drove. "Or maybe, someone made her disappear." Jake glanced at her. "You think her family?" "I think someone in that family knows more than they said," Emily interrupted. "Maybe they hid her, or something worse." That night, back in Maplewood, Emily sat at her desk again. She opened her laptop and searched old articles about the Sanders family. Most were about Richard Sanders, Laura's father, a wealthy businessman, known for his charity work. But Emily noticed something strange: every record about Laura stopped after 1994. It was like she had been erased. As Emily scrolled, a new message popped up on her screen from an unknown email address. "You don't understand what you're getting into. Stop digging, or you'll regret it." Emily's heart pounded. She showed the message to Jake, who texted back, "Whoever this is, they're scared. That means we're close." Emily closed her laptop slowly. "Laura's story isn't over yet," she whispered. "And I'm not stopping until I find the ending." Outside, thunder rolled once more across Maplewood. And far away, in a dark mansion on the edge of town, a light flickered in the old Sanders house. Someone was awake. Someone who knew the truth. The next morning, the town of Maplewood looked calm under the soft sunlight, but for Emily Parker, everything had changed. She couldn't stop thinking about what Daniel Cooper had told her, how Laura was pregnant, how she had planned to run away, and how she suddenly disappeared. There was only one person left who could answer the final question: Richard Sanders, Laura's father. Jake Miller tried to convince Emily not to go. "Emily, if her father really did something, you could be in danger." Emily looked at him firmly. "Jake, I'm not afraid anymore. Laura's story deserves an ending." Jake sighed, then nodded. "Then I'm coming with you." That afternoon, they drove to the old Sanders mansion on the edge of town. The once grand house was now covered in ivy and dust. The windows were dark, and the garden was overgrown. Emily's heart raced as they walked up the cracked stone steps. She knocked on the door. After a moment, it opened slowly. An elderly man stood there, thin, pale, with sharp blue eyes. "Yes," he said coldly. "Mr. Sanders?" Emily asked. He nodded. "Who are you?" "My name is Emily Parker. I wanted to ask you about your daughter, Laura." The man's eyes hardened instantly. "My daughter is gone. There's nothing more to say." Emily didn't move. "Please, sir. I found her photo and her locket. I know she was in love with Daniel Cooper." For a moment, Richard said nothing. His hand trembled slightly on the door. "You should leave," he said finally. "That part of the past is over." Emily took a step forward. "It's not over, Mr. Sanders. Not until the truth is known." He stared at her, then sighed deeply and opened the door wider. "Come in." The mansion's interior was dark and silent. The air smelled of old wood and dust. Family portraits lined the walls, all except one space, where a frame was missing. Richard walked slowly to a large chair near the fireplace. "You remind me of her," he said quietly. "Laura had the same determination." Emily sat across from him. "Then why did you hide her story?" Richard's face twisted with pain. "You think I wanted any of this?" Laura was my only child. I wanted to protect her. Protect her? Emily asked. From what? Richard closed his eyes. From the town. From the shame. From the people who would never forgive her for loving someone like Daniel Cooper. Jake spoke up. You made her disappear. Richard's eyes filled with tears. She begged me to let her go. I refused. We argued that night. She ran out into the storm. The next morning, I found her note. Emily leaned forward. What did it say? Richard's voice trembled as he recited the words. Don't look for me, Daddy. I need to live my truth. Please forgive me. Emily felt a chill. So she left Maplewood. Richard nodded slowly. I never saw her again. I told everyone she ran away, but I kept her memory locked away because the guilt was too heavy. I thought if I erased her name, the pain would fade. Emily swallowed hard. You were wrong, sir. Hiding the truth doesn't make it disappear. Richard looked down at his trembling hands. I know. And I've lived with that regret every day for 30 years. When Emily and Jake left the mansion, the sky was turning orange. The air felt lighter, but Emily's heart was still heavy. Do you think he was telling the truth? Jake asked. I do, Emily said softly. But I still wonder, what happened to Laura after she left? Jake looked at her. Maybe we'll never know. Emily stared out at the horizon. Or maybe we will. That evening, Emily uploaded her findings: the photo, the locket, Daniel's story, and Richard's confession into a video titled "The Girl Who Disappeared: The Truth Behind the 30-Year Mystery." Within days, the story spread online. People from all over the country watched and shared it. Some remembered the old case. Others sent messages of support. Then, 1 week later, something unexpected happened. Emily received an email with the subject line, "I think I'm the girl you're looking for." Her hands shook as she opened it. Hello, Emily. My name is Grace. I live in Seattle. I recently watched your video about Laura Sanders. I don't know how to say this, but my adoptive parents told me I was found as a baby near Maplewood in 1994. The locket in your video, I have the same one. I think Laura Sanders was my mother. Emily gasped. Jake, she's alive. Her daughter's alive. Jake's eyes widened. Grace. Emily nodded. She's coming to Maplewood tomorrow. The next day, at the old library where everything began, Emily waited nervously. Then a woman in her early 30s walked in, brown hair, kind eyes, and a locket around her neck identical to the one Emily had found. Grace? Emily asked softly. The woman smiled. You must be Emily. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Grace said, I always wondered where I came from. I guess now I know. Emily handed her the original locket. This belonged to your mother. Grace held it gently, tears in her eyes. Thank you for giving me back her story. Emily smiled. She never wanted to be forgotten. And now, she never will be. They both looked toward the window, where sunlight poured into the dusty library. Outside, the rain had finally stopped, and a faint rainbow arched across the sky like a silent promise. 30 years of silence ended because one girl refused to stop searching. Sometimes, the smallest clue, a photo, a word, a memory, can uncover a lifetime of truth. Emily didn't just solve a mystery, she gave a family back its missing piece. And in doing so, she reminded the world that love, even lost, always finds a way home.